Hello, welcome. You are my first got a text message. My first reading with new hair. My natural color. Actually, my girlfriend just put in black dye, even though I didn't need it at all, which kind of looks pretty cool. She was doing it to herself already, and I was like, 1 second. I was like, why not? Why not? My eyes are kind of red, whatever. It's these allergies. I can't shake some of my allergies. Whatever, no matter if I take Claritin, I always have red eyes. Whatevs. Anyways, okay, let's start the timer. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for not sending, the message of when is it going to be done? Was it going to be done? Not that many people send that to me anyways, but and I don't know. It's never like bad energy when they do, but I just really appreciate people who just like, I don't know, just let it come when it comes, because it will come, and now it's coming. And we are okay, so we're good. Recording is good, lighting's good, and let's just double check. So I have everything hidden. Let's go ahead and share this once I add the aspect grid. Let's go ahead and share. So by the way, I'm gonna be going back and forth between sharing and not sharing the screen. I've been noticing like lately in readings that I benefited a lot from from when I'm in this mode, because it doesn't show my face, which I kind of wish it did, but sometimes I'll just like go into meditations or walk around, and it'll actually help me, because I think I'm like one of these people that like thinks better when I'm moving. And so I know, like, it's just like a balance game, because people, they want to see my face, but at the same time, the most important thing is for you to have the best reading. I'm not that handsome, I'm joking, but I'm there's a certain level of like getting that experience, right, of us, conveyed through body language and stuff. So anyways, so we have a sun in the first house, Capricorn, and double Capricorn, conjunct Neptune, of course. Every Capricorn client I have just about has their sun conjunct Neptune. It's like literally, I did like a statistic like 2 years ago, and it was like 85 or something percent of my Capricorn clients had their sun conjunct either Neptune or Uranus. Nearly every time it was Neptune, which is, no surprise. And Uranus is not far behind. It's in a different sign, 8 degrees. So basically, I'll start with that. That kind of makes you like a Capricorn slash Pisces. Neptune is the planet of Pisces, and you're gonna be like that's why, like, when I was first getting started in astrology, I was very like, I was like, wow, I'm getting a lot of Capricorns, and I was surprised, right? I was like, why is that? Like it's not like a spiritual sign or known to be a spiritual sign. It's usually, like the kind of, the sign that's all about work and success. So yeah, basically having Neptune on your sun, Neptune, the planet of imagination, of a better alternative reality, it's very dreamy, very imaginative, very compassionate, all these things, very, very, very intuitive. So even, if you do lack water in your chart, which it shows a lot of water, but I'm looking, yeah, you have Venus in Scorpio, and let's see, Cancer. Yeah, so you really, you don't have that much water. You have Venus in water, and I don't really count the outer planets signs, because they're not ruling like functional parts of our person of us. But basically, just from this information, this is going to give you that kind of water that you might otherwise lack, right? And you lack air in your chart. So what that does, right? Sun conjunct Neptune, is that even if you're a Capricorn, which I'm not going to talk about your sun sign, about your sun sign, you're going to be like a Pisces Capricorn, where you're going to really mix that very hardworking, laborious, you know, the Capricorn, like when you have a lot of Capricorn in your chart and you went through your Saturn turn years ago, you probably felt like a massive weight lift off your shoulder, right? And that goes for anyone with like any like strong Saturn placements or Capricorn, and you have Capricorn ruling your chart. So Saturn ruling your chart, so you have Capricorn rising. And basically, you know, it makes it so like there's like so much fate in the first like 29 and a half, 30 years of life. And very, very ruled by fate, very, very, you know, ruled by setbacks, right? There's like restrictions and setbacks that then get eased. You have your Saturn in the 12th house, which is super interesting. In Placidus, it would probably be in the 11th, but in whole signs, it's in the 12th, and I do whole signs. But you know, when I break it down, I think that like, you know, you're here. It's a very, very karmic chart right off the bat, right? But with that conjunction, right, starting just real basically, there's a, first of all, sun in the first house, right? So there's a real need to kind of assert yourself. So you're someone who's probably a project starter, you know, a self starter in general. Where's your Mars? Oh no, I'm tripping. You see, this color code has me all messed up. Like you have Mars in Pisces and Jupiter, like because it's red, it makes me think it's fire. It's really annoying. So you have plenty of water. You actually have a lot of water. Now I see Jupiter and Mars there. So it's air that you don't have much of. Okay, that explains things better. But in essence, you know, as a Capricorn conjunct Neptune, you know, that's what brings you to astrology. That's what brings you to spirituality. It doesn't matter what sign you have that's conjunct. If it's conjunct Neptune as a sun, you're gonna really feel more like a Pisces, and when you're you know, or as much. And Pisces energy is very sensitive, super empathetic. So I always think that these types of Capricorns are very special because what Pisces lacks is the ability to actually follow through. And Capricorn, that's where they're the experts at, right? They are the sign that gets shit done, no bullshit. So when you're able to couple that with this like inspiration, like compassion, intuition, imagine like, just this way where you can kind of, like, a big thing for you is like channeling your imagination into your daily life, right? Into your sense of self, right? And I imagine it definitely plays a role in your career with your midheaven in Scorpio conjunct Pluto, right? Because that's kind of speaking to like your career, your dharma, what you're here for, being very much based on what you do in the external world. And I think group like you know, large aspirations and, you know, friend groups, like associations, whatever it is that like where you like are able to connect with other people and become part of a you know, of a greater whole. This is like something that's very, very important for you, and you have a very powerful, you know, role to play in whatever groups it is. Which, by the way, I think you got only the reading. Most people get like the follow up and the reading. If you do decide to get a follow up, there is, you know, something, a group I have that you might be very interested in. We can talk about it, but I'm very private about it. But in essence, yeah, like groups of like-minded people or just like humanitarian causes, stuff of that nature is very, very large in your chart, right? Like it's like the big like what you contribute to the collective. It's more than just like the 10th house where it's like, you know, what you're doing for just like your only yourself. 11th house takes that step further, and it's like what you're doing, like your career. I imagine being very like collective oriented. But when it's, you know, in midheaven in Scorpio, first of all, just one little thing about the midheaven, it's like that's kind of how you come off on social media, how you come off to people, like if you were famous, like you'd see, like people would see your midheaven, but then when they got to know you, they'd see your ascendant, right? So it's like midheaven is like the big picture. So you'd be seen by people that don't know you as this very intense, powerful human. With Pluto there, and people like Vladimir Putin, I mean, I know he's not like, you know, it's not the best example, but it's someone who's basically, I'm just saying that because he's very powerful, right? He has Pluto there. Lots of very powerful people have Pluto on the midheaven, and yeah, they become very powerful. And Scorpio, you know, it makes one really want to like contribute in some type of way, whether it's like research or psychology, something that dives deeper. You really want to like have like a career, or a career, whether it's like a career, the actual like job, or something that's like, whatever it is that you're doing, like big picture, could even be like spirituality, but it's related to diving deeper into your own psyche, and through your own shadow work, being able to kind of help heal people and join forces, right? Now with the Capricorn, right? As I was saying before, in Moon and Virgo, you have triple Earth, right? So everything is Earth. So we have an abundance. You see down here, like it's a bunch of Earth, a bunch of water. So you have very, very feminine charts. So right off the bat, people who have that typically tend to have they're very in tune with their emotions and with their intuitions, with the kind of feminine parts of life. But when it comes to like self-starting, assertiveness, all that stuff, there can be lots of difficulty, right? So that's something that you kind of need sometimes. Need like a push in the butt, whether it's from a partner or whoever. But that's the thing, is that having Capricorn rising, even though it's not fire, it is a very, very like it's a cardinal sign, and Capricorn, like once they set their focus on something, they are able to follow through to the maximum, and that's why so many of them are so successful, and they're so good at dealing with setbacks, right? They karmically have lots of setbacks that come in, and then they deal with them, and then when the Saturn turn comes, it pushes the energy away, makes it more easy for them to deal with, and then they're just like, okay, shit, like now all that bad shit is gone, and I'm stuck, not stuck, I'm left with this really amazing energy, right? I'm left with this like this perseverance and this determination and all that stuff, right? And your ascendant is trining your moon, so that's a very good aspect, because it shows that your moon is like your deepest emotions, what makes you feel secure. It's your depths, right? So to have that trining your ascendant, it makes it so you're someone who wears their emotions on their sleeve. Like what you see is what you get, pretty much, right? There's not like this big discrepancy between like how you are emotionally, like what you need to feel secure, and how you project yourself. Like the ascendant is the mask, right? Like the mask, the personality. So there's a large level of authenticity, which can lead to popularity. But I definitely, speaking of popularity, I definitely see that 11th house like being highlighted as like a place where there's lots of energy. So with friends, and as I said before, like groups, whatever kind of large group, whether it's like working with people, associations of any sort, where it's like humanitarian stuff or whatever, right? Also, it relates to like large long-term goals that get realized like over a lifetime, which is so like that's such a Capricornian thing, to have like super like large goal, like ambitious goals that take a long time to actualize. But yeah, so that's kind of the first thing I noticed. You're definitely like with your North Node in Aries. Literally, I was gonna guess that, and I looked as I was like saying it. It's like you're karmically, like you're really trying to find your identity in this lifetime. You're really looking, like it's like you're it's okay to be a little bit selfish, right? When it comes to like figuring out your true authentic self, because in past lives you've been a little bit held back by relationships, and maybe even like kind of like acquiescing to other people's needs instead of like going for your own, if that makes sense. Like that's kind of like the lovi of Libra. And in this life you're meant to, like with North Node Aries, it's very interesting how many of my clients have their North Node in fire signs, because that's where my South Node is. That's like what I bring to the table very, very easily for me, is that fire. I have a lot of it in my chart. So it's interesting that people who are trying, because the North Node is like, that's like where you're trying to get in this lifetime, right? That's like but it's difficult. While the South Node, that's like the past life tendency, past life tendency to be very diplomatic, very, but like, and there's lots of good. South Node's not bad, so Libra is very pleasant, very sociable, all these things. But where it can get bad, and it's so much about like balance, right? So you've probably heard about Libra that there can be a tendency when there's conflict or in different situations to put other people's needs. They don't want to disappoint anyone. They're the balancing sign, right? The sign in the middle, the zodiac, them and Virgo. So, they really like want to balance everything, and sometimes they put other people's needs before their own. So in this life, it's like, especially as it relates to home life and family life, and matters related to your own like emotional well-being, right? Especially your moon in Virgo, which we'll talk about next. You're supposed to be a little bit selfish in that sense, because the selfishness is all going to lead to you doing the work, which in past lives, maybe like through relationships, like marriages, whatever, you may have been kind of like pushed into this role of, Miss Robinson, or I don't even know, like your role of mother or of aunt or sister or whatever, and unable to actually become, I'm not gonna say your name, but become like the version of yourself. That makes sense, right? So that's that. With Moon in Virgo, where did my face go? Okay. Moon in Virgo conjunct the vertex. That's interesting. That's going to be someone who is really, really, really like analytical. I guess I'll go back to my face for a little bit. Where's my camera? Okay, there we are. So, okay, so this is the thing about Virgo Moon, right? And looking for aspects. So you have Moon square Sun. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of like, do I really give that one? Because they're in the same sign, or they're in the same element. So it's not really like a full square. I don't really like to think of that as a square. Like, for example, if your moon was at like, a square is 90 degrees and it relates to tension. But basically, I just had a client who had a very similar thing, and she said her parents were divorced. So what typically I say, I have Sun square Moon also, but mine, they're in 3 signs away. Yours are in 4 signs away. 4 signs away is a good, pleasant relationship. 3 signs is where it's real tense. But like usually it has to do with like a discontent, like a very like different message that you're getting from one parent to the other, which leads to a personality that's where there's like a conflict, where you sometimes feel like there's like, if you are a metaphoric ship in the ocean, like you have 2 captains going in totally different directions. But just in this situation, I don't see it being that big of an issue, because your Sun and your Moon are both in Earth signs, as opposed to, let's say that your Moon, instead of 27 Virgo, was at 15 Virgo, and then your Sun was in Sagittarius, right? Like at 15 Sagittarius or 20 Sagittarius. That's more of a conflict, because those are 3 signs away in completely different energies. So yeah, you are on the cusp of Sag and Cap, but you're still a Cap. So yeah. But with the Moon in Virgo, I mean, what can you say? Conjunct the vertex, that's very, very interesting placement. But basically, one thing you have to watch out for with that is perfectionism. I'm sure you read it in my posts. Moon in Virgo is the ultimate, like there can be lots of like anxiety. Like a lot of people that have Moon in Virgo have like anxiety. I always tell people I don't drink alcohol, like very rarely. This is kombucha. I drink it like for like every reading pretty much. But basically, what was I gonna say? Yeah, perfectionism, you have to watch out for that. And yeah, and it can be like so like hidden. This perfectionism, it can be so hidden deep within you that you might not even see it. But it can come from having like an overly critical mother, right? And what can happen is that Virgo moons, there's a need for everything to be 100 or 0. You probably heard this before. So when that person who has such high expectations for themselves gets to like, let's say 90 out of 100, then they say, sometimes they can have this like fuck it attitude, be like, okay, I'm just gonna go to 0, whatever. So yeah, it's really important to kind of like understand that, and to just give your best each day. And if there's days where you can only get to like, I don't know, 50 out of 100, still it's about learning self-compassion and self-love in that type of way, right? Aside from that, Virgo moons, like what makes them like comfortable is things being like kind of like very organized. There's also like a very strong link between the emotions and the body. So like you can be like an overworker, especially being in Capricorn. So you have to watch out for that, because like things can show up like physically that are bad if you're like too in that perfectionism and too in that workaholicism, if that's the thing. And you can become like ill under stress. And but really, like, there's a real need for like perfection, and I say that a lot, like a real need for order and for kind of having things in a certain way. Like Virgo moons, they don't like when they usually have like kind of a system, and they typically, I mean, not all the time. I've met some very like some Virgo moons. They're just like complete opposite. They're super spiritual, because the opposite sign of Pisces. But yeah, it's just something to know about, right? Aside from that, Virgo moons, they can be too much in their heads, because it's ruled by Mercury, so it can make you like really like try to like use logic when it comes to emotions. And this can be problematic when you're not feeling your emotions, when you're kind of like, what's the word in psychology, like verbalizing them, not like instead of feeling them, right? Just speaking, like when you go to think about like the person who goes to the therapist and they just are talking, they're not actually feeling any energy, and they're just, nothing's going to get altered unless you really feel the energy, right? But overall, like Virgo moons can be happy from like doing like daily task things, like running errands, making sure that everything in the house is clean and chill. And they really, but there's a real emotional need, especially in relationships, to feel that appreciation, because they might be they're very like giving, very like loyal. So in partnerships, it's very important to have all the little things you do be noticed and be appreciated, right? And super loyal, super like reliable, right? And that's what you'll seek in a partner as well, someone that you can rely on. And yeah, cleanliness is very important, as I said. Also, like Virgo moons tend to like be very like up on like the trend, like what's like good for your health, like the diet, exercising. Like they're very type A a lot of times in terms of like organizing their life. But there's definitely a spiritual part to you with the Capricorn Sun conjunct Neptune. So yeah, emotional need for detail and organization. And yeah, also super detail oriented, right? So and they have no time for lazy or sloppy people, right? So yeah, you just have to watch out for the potential neuroticism that can come with a Virgo moon, and get good at like channeling your emotions, like through different means, through creative means. Like look at the opposite sign of Pisces. That's why having Neptune on your Capricorn Sun is so important. But like really trying to balance out, because this is another thing in your chart where in past lives you've been very like in the public, like invested in that kind of outer like external world. And this life, you're meant to really invest in yourself. You're meant to really go in a lot. Not to say that you're not meant to like do a lot of work, of very powerful, important work, but you're really meant, like I said before, to go within that energy, right? And Virgo moons, like you have to know, like meditation can be so important, because like remember, and then going out and doing things like hiking, like things that make you feel grounded and give you like it's like life is like a video game, and the Virgo moon sometimes just needs to press pause. That's why lots of Virgos become very spiritual, because the opposite sign Pisces is that last sign. I think of the kind of magic Virgo is like earth magic, right? And through that, like that spiritual journey, you learn that like that perfectionism, you kind of see like where that came from, right? It's probably passed down. And yeah. So then the fact that you have the vertex there, so that makes it so women in your life tend to be like the catalyst for helping you like get to your highest emotional growth. A lot of times it could be with the mother, right? Because you're definitely like a nurturer to others as well. And the plan is the goal is to be, not just a nurturer to others, but also to yourself. And yeah, so it's like you can really be like kind of like the person in charge in your family, like everyone comes to and stuff. Let's see, what else can I say about this? Yeah. So, vertex is in the 9th house. So the moon's in the 9th house. That gives you this. It's like the house of Sagittarius. That's giving you this deep need for like higher philosophy, for and it'd be in the 8th house in the other Placid system. So that would speak more to like this like death, rebirth, and transformation, and that playing like a huge role in your life, which I see being very relevant in other parts of your chart as well, like how in this life you're really trying to shed a lot of the snake skin, and allow like these like ego deaths and these parts of you. This is very universal. Many of my clients have these types of things, the placements. But in the 9th house, that adds like travel, higher learning, philosophy, all of these types of things. I'm saying things too much, but it makes that very important. And your doorway to higher awareness and emotional contentment comes from just exploring and investigating and just being like that curious cat. So that's very, very important. Speaking of cats, I just randomly saw you have Chiron in the 6th house, which could indicate that animals can be very healing to you. I just randomly thought of that as like a random thing. And you have that Pisces energy too, which loves animals. But yeah, yeah. So yeah, Virgo. There can be. We'll shift back to the chart. Like there can definitely be anxiety disorders. So that I noticed that multiple times, but and those are alleviated when you start doing the spiritual work, but and get past perfectionism and learn to kind of like regulate yourself and understand, kind of, because lacking air in your chart, it makes it so you might not you can lack objectivity, and be very subjective and not see things like from other people's point of view. And it can also make one kind of have issues with communication, and making friends, stuff like that, which I'm not saying that that's an issue, but air is about communicating and being very social, and with your chart, air is about being very grounded in the physical and succeeding, moving forward. But I definitely see lots of spirituality in your chart too, with this Jupiter Mars conjunction, in Pisces, which is in the 3rd house of communication. So that's very interesting to me too. But in essence, I would say, let's see, and Moon, yeah. So Moon square Uranus. Okay, I need to talk about that. So Moon square Uranus and Moon square Mercury. So okay, so that is basically saying that. So you have Mercury in Sag. Let's start with that. Mercury in Sag conjunct Uranus. Mercury is how you talk, how you think. It's your brain. So in the 12th house, it's conjunct my moon. So cool. That's why you resonate well with my messages, because your Mercury is exactly my moon. So in Sagittarius, mine's 21, yours is 20, and yours is just about 21. So it's an exact conjunction. But basically, like that, Mercury conjunct Uranus in the 12th house can literally give you psychic abilities. It can give you like clairvoyance. It can really, really be strong but it's going to make you like very different in terms of how you communicate. And you might be like a genius, like a hidden genius, like type energy, right? Where you're very unconventional in the way you think and the ideas you have and the things that interest you. Which being a Capricorn can be a little bit problematic because Capricorn is so, or even Capricorn rising comes off as so responsible, so in this realm, right? But then there's this whole other side that's deeply spiritual. So I think it all goes back to the North Node, right? And Aries, which is really asking you to find your voice, to find your true authentic voice, to find your true authentic self, to not take bullshit from other people, right? And Aries is very headstrong energy, right? If you've met Aries people, you know that they don't give a shit what other people think of them. They just do what they want to do, right? They don't think twice. And sometimes it's a very bad thing, but it's asking you to kind of be like that. It's conjunct Aries, so it's like, yeah, there's definitely some volcanic power in this whole thing. But yeah, so with the Mercury and Uranus in the 12th house already, it can make like kind of like the more obvious communications difficult, while you're very, very good like in a very high abstract. It's super interesting, right? You can be very, very good in like communicating and understanding like super high abstract ideas while struggling with the basics in the 12th house. So there could be issues with being your own worst enemy. And the fact that like when it comes to like your communication, the fact that it squares the moon, that means that there's this at odds energy between like how you feel and what you say. It can make it very difficult to express yourself, to really truly express your like how you feel emotionally, right? Emotional expression. It can be tough. So you think about, okay, so what's the channel? Well, the 12th house here, it's giving you access to like all these other spiritual realms, the collective unconscious. But the only way you can truly access that is by getting out of that Virgo, like kind of like, how Virgo can be so in the here and now and like kind of preoccupied with trivial parts of life. And, what you really want to do is move away from that. Not all you can't completely move away from that part of you. It's a large part of you. But what you can do is you can become someone who is looking at like, what does Pisces energy mean to me, right? What does Pisces energy mean, and how can it be applied to my life? Pisces is an energy that's very dreamy, and I'm literally like walking around and petting my Pisces rising cat with her beautiful Pisces rising eyes, and I'm kind of understanding deeper, that there's this real smoothness and this real like kind of like everything will be okay, acceptance, letting go, like trust of God. And sometimes Pisces take that too far, and Virgos are the like opposite, where they're like worrying about all the details. How is this going to work? How is this going to work out? How is this going to work out? This, that. And the Pisces just chill, just like do your best, and things are just going to work out. And you can see how that can be problematic sometimes for Pisces, right? Because they can think that too much, and then there's not enough doing. That's why like when you have that like Virgo energy or Pisces energy, you want to like borrow it, right? Like you want to figure out how can I use this energy, right? How can I balance out the Pisces / Virgo archetype within me? And every human has this, So that's kind of what I mean by that. Is like, and you have Pisces in your chart, right? So you have your Mars and Jupiter there. So it's not foreign to you. It's not something that you don't have access to. You just have to, like, basically there's a split in your chart. And if you were ever to do therapy with me, I do astrological counseling. I go deep. A lot of my work, I really try to identify, are there any splits, right? What are the self-limiting beliefs? But that's something else. But I really look for splits, because astrology can really give us access to splits. And I already see one. I mean, I spoke about it briefly because I told you what, like, your sun and your moon are both in earth signs. So it's kind of like I kind of have to talk to you to kind of like understand how that is, because it can really be different from person to person. But basically here, I see the split of like a part of you being very, very spiritual and very different, but then this other part being kind of self-judgy and very kind of like in the material world, you know, not worry, but like, you know, very, very involved with money, finances, and you know, and when you worry about things, right? Like if you, I'm not saying you're a worrier, right? I'm not saying that at all. But like if you were, like if you are someone that worries a lot, right? That can really separate you from the divine, from the timelessness that exists, right? And that's like what you know, having lots of Virgos in my life, what I notice about them sometimes is that they can really get separated from the divine. And a lot, you know, pretty much most of the Virgos that I'm close to, like my mom, are very, very, my best friend, are deeply spiritual people. They're deeply spiritual people. But at some point in their life, they had to like really, really let go, because that energy is very, very nervous. And it's also very high stakes. It's like very like they expect so much from themselves. And it's like, why do you have like such high expectations? You know, what happened? What makes you, and I have the same thing going on. I'm a Pisces, right? But like, and that's my whole point, is that I haven't really said, so I can't really say it's my whole point, but that we can sometimes act more like our opposite signs, signs, but different parts of our chart, than the ones that we actually have. So with I've seen that more than anything with the Virgo and Pisces. I've seen so many Pisces like myself that like act kind of more Virgo-y sometimes, and then vice versa. So the split, going back to my original point, right? The split here could relate to basically, you know, those two parts, right? Those two parts. And getting so like a very important thing is getting past that Virgo moon energy, the lower vibe Virgo moon, which can be so worried about like you know, the worry of this day, the worry of this week. But once you're able to, then that whole magical world opens up. And that's shown in your chart with that Mars, I'm getting to it, that Mars Jupiter conjunction in Pisces in the 3rd house. Now this is linked, and I know I started talking about your Mercury. I'm pulling this all back around, right? It's coming all full circle, completely. It's coming full circle. Speaking too fast. This is usually always how I speak, though. So what can I do? But basically, that energy is telling me that you are someone who likes to be there for the underdog. You're someone who likes to be there, who likes to be of service. You're someone who is very, very compassionate, and that's a strength that not everyone has, especially in this world, as you can clearly see by what's happening in the world. But then, because your ascendant is Capricorn, right? People expect something of you. And what happens with Pisces energy, let me explain this to you, is that it's very adaptable. But sometimes it gives in too much to what other people's expectations are. They can really, really fall victim, even Virgo a little bit, right? They can really, really fall victim to the box that other people put them in. And so like one of the most empowering things is like figuring out like, okay, like how am I going to get out of that? You know, how am I going to live a life where I'm not defined by what other people think of me? And it's difficult. It's not easy. It's way easier said than done. But that's what Pisces really is. It's like you know, it's about like, you know, like just kind of letting go, right? Letting go and understand that, and going right back to your Uranus conjunct your Mercury, that your way of thinking, the things you're interested in, right? is completely going to be different than like the mainstream, right? Than like what most people are interested in. And the way that you're gonna, like I told you before, like you have potential like psychic abilities, you have this real unconventional way of thinking and seeing the world and also communicating. And some people might just be like, what? But then other people like me, you know, or people in this group that you should, even if you don't get a follow-up, you should still message me about, because I find you fascinating. And I know that you would, you know, really be a good addition. You know, like-minded people are very important for you to find. Just washing my hands really quickly. I'm walking around a little bit now. It's very, very important for you to find these types of people, because you know, there can be lots of healing, because when someone has a chart like yours, they can sometimes feel like the black sheep, like misunderstood, when in reality, it's just that people don't understand the complexity of your being, and the complexity of your thoughts, and the complexity of your nature. So going back to what I was saying, you know, with the Mercury conjunct Uranus, you know, you could literally see the future. So, but like the whole point of your chart, when I go back to the split, is like, how can you, if, and maybe you've learned this already, but how can you learn to consistently slow down that Virgo moon brain slash self, or whatever you want to call it, and tune in to this Sagittarius, right? Because it's in Sagittarius, all this energy, Sagittarius Mercury, which Sagittarius Mercury, it's linked to your moon. So your moon is in the 9th house, right? The 9th house is a house that's it's like basically the house of Sagittarius. If basically we can call it that. Some astrologers are, you know, will say that like it's not like an exact correlation between like the houses, but basically the way the houses work is that the first house is very related to Aries, the first sign, and the second house is very related to Taurus, the second sign, and it's kind of, there's a correlation in that sense, right? So yeah, there's just basically like a big link between like that Sag energy, right? So this is like the Sag energy in the 12th house, and your moon in the 9th house. And the way to bring those two together is through figuring out whatever it is, like talents, outlets. Of course, like I said, I'll say it again and again and again, like ways to slow the mind, like ways to slow the mind down. You know, whether it's like some kind of like writing, because that's like highlighting your chart too, is like 3rd house, Mars, you know, with that Pisces energy there, like some form of communication, right? That gets you in touch with this energy. So I would try like some type of like automatic writing, journaling, stuff like that, but where you're really like meditating, right? And getting into like a deep spiritual state, and then just like trying to get really into the right brain part of yourself, right? Really trying to get into that right brain. And that can be extremely healing. A lot can come from that, right? So yeah, like I guess I would summarize it as like finding an outlet for like some of the, you know, like I don't want to say it's like necessarily a thing, but you know, it's well known that people that have well known by me, I guess you could say, that people that have Virgo moons tend to have anxiety issues in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, but when you can tune into like the divine, tune into like this oneness and this inner peace, and learn, like, because Virgos are very good at learning strategies, right? So it's not like it's mission impossible. And also Virgo is very, very good at repeating and coming back to different things, right? So that's something that can be very, very beneficial, is really moving towards your Mars / Jupiter and Pisces energy. Now, what else does that mean, right? What else does it mean to have that placement, those placements? Well, basically, you're able to expand yourself a lot through anything that has to do with the arts, with being of service to humanity, right? Like that's like that Piscean compassion. But also, I spoke earlier about your imagination, right? And that is something that like has to be tuned into, because when we go back to the Mercury and Sag, that's more energy. That's basically saying that like you are someone whose brain and whose way of communicating is very, very linked to higher wisdom and finding higher wisdom and using it in a way that can help you achieve deeper spiritual goals. And you could literally be a channel, like literally. That's something I see quite frequently with people who have Mercury conjunct Uranus, especially in the 12th house, the most spiritual, it's the house of Pisces, right? And then you have Jupiter right there too, right? So Jupiter is giving even more of this. Like, so you probably are psychic, whether you know or not. And the thing that like I'm showing you here with the cursor, this is determining, like, I'm gonna put my face back on, but that moon is really determining like whether you've been able to really take advantage of that or not, right? Because the Virgo moon energy can really hold one back if they're stuck in like their lower chakras, right? Because there can be, like, you know how like the whole conspiracies or whatever about like people, like all the fear in the media and all that, like keeping people in their lower chakras so they're not able to kind of develop spiritually and see the big picture. It can kind of be like something like that, but not necessarily like from like the media, or just from your own life, from your own experiences. So kind of like finding ways to delve into that spiritual part of you. But also, just in general, like Sag Mercury's, like they can be very blunt with their speech. And it's square Mars and square Jupiter, and square Chiron. So this is kind of what I was getting at, is that a lot of times when I see charts like this, I think like, man, like they may have like received an inherent message when they were younger that their way of thinking, like there's something wrong with their way of thinking. And I get lots of clients with Chiron in Mercury or in Gemini for a reason, because they have wounding around, like they think basically someone tells them they're dumb, like not directly, but they get that message that like their way of thinking, their way of seeing the world, there's something that's at fault. There's something that's off, when really it's actually a superpower that people don't get. And even just rereading some of your messages, I saw like you said something about like I know it's just a joke, but you get to see how crazy I am. Well, no. And that goes back to like, I'm not saying you meant anything by that. I don't think you did. I think it's just a joke I hear from a lot of people. But like letting other people's projections of you, this is a very Pisces thing, right? And Pisces Virgo axis, right? So it's kind of like it's the same energy but opposite. Letting other people's opinion of you and energy towards you dictate that, like your energy towards yourself. And that's why one other thing I want to bring up is that time in isolation, there's this other part of your split where there's like one part that needs to be like first house Capricorn, right? Like has to be out there doing stuff, right? Like on your path towards building whatever empire, whatever your big project is. That's a huge part. But then there's a big need, and in your Placidus chart, you'd have a 12th house sun, a big need for isolation. And within that isolation, you're able to truly find peace, and you're able to truly find meaning within yourself. Like you can find with Jupiter in the 12th house, you can find this deep well of optimism. Wait, did I say Jupiter in the 12th house? I meant to say Saturn. Jupiter's in the 3rd house. But it's similar. It's in Pisces in the 12th house. You're able to find this deep well of optimism within your communications, more or less, within the way you speak and think, right? So writing could be very, very powerful. Like poems potentially, because you have a very abstract mind. That could be really, really healing. And you don't have to show them to anyone. It can just be something that you do, where you just try to kind of explain your reality through writing. But yeah, definitely there can be pain around that. There can be also like a Sag Mercury can be a little bit with square Jupiter can be a little bit blunt, and that could have got you into some conflicts of just like saying things. And yeah, with Saturn there, it's just kind of like trying to, it's like there's like energies trying to kind of like hold you back from finding your true voice and trying to push you into like a box. But then you break free of those, and the Saturn, or you really start to like make movement on that, those toward in your Saturn return. And yeah, there can be all kinds of like hidden enemies also with Saturn there. And that's why it's really important for you, like when you spend like a lot of time around people, to then spend time alone, and then you'll really know how you feel, or how that other person's energy is based on how you feel comparing how you were with them to how you were without them, right? That's kind of how you gain that information. Now, I said I was going to talk about Moon square Uranus. I have been, but like more about the conjunction of Mercury and Uranus. Now, Moon square Uranus, that makes someone like a rebel, like just like to a T, a rebel, right? And what can happen, it's very also, it's more of that kind of genius energy that I keep talking about. Like genius being like someone who beats the beat of their own drum, who's not like who's not just like doing things just because other people want them to do them, or because that's what they're supposed to do. They do them because that's what they want to do. But when it's the Moon square Uranus, especially in Virgo, there can definitely be some anxiety issues, and there's a real need for grounding, because it can give like a compulsive need for stimulation, which makes someone very fun and interesting, and also like very freedom giving. But in relationships, it can kind of make it so like you might sometimes feel like caged in, and like your relationships are like a form of jail, right? That's what can happen with this type of placement, right? Very independent nature. And it can also make one bored easily, so like compulsively drawn to anything that's new and shiny, and like, yeah, just very emotionally compulsive. And it can also just make someone very up and down with their emotions. So finding spiritual practices that help that are very important, right? It's also very common with Moon square Uranus to maybe as a kid you had parents that were divorced. I'm not sure. You may have like moved around a lot, but also as an adult, it makes one really want to like move around a lot, whether it's like moving to different cities, different houses, whatever, like just a need for change. And very rebellious, right? Which when it comes to like on an emotional level, it can give one some type of issues with holding on to maintaining long-term emotional commitments, right? So yeah. But also a lot of times with this one, there's usually like a pretty unorthodox upbringing, but it's not necessarily bad, because it could have been an upbringing where you had a lot of freedom. And yeah, so the big struggle is between like emotional nurturing, right, on one hand, the Moon, and then detachment and independence, which literally speaks back to that whole split I've been talking about, right? And like too much of one and not enough of the other can cause like behavioral or relationship problems. It's all about like trying to like find that balance. But yeah, it's really good for like psychology, anything scientific, and definitely like a career that's stimulating to you, right? A designer, whatever, inventor, who knows? Now with the more Scorpio part of your chart, kind of talking more about love, in Venus and Scorpio, they can be very like there can be issues of power dynamics that show up a lot in relationships. You'll really like it kind of seconds what I said earlier about you really valuing that deep loyalty in relationships, and just in general, like it's something you value in everyone and everything. And you are that kind of person as well. So you definitely would not do well in a relationship with like a, I don't know, quadruple Aquarius or Gemini, you know, someone that doesn't really have that part of life locked down, we can say. And yeah, there can be issues for sure. So yeah, Venus, planet of love language, Scorpio. There can be drama, there can be intensity, there can be, you know, at the lowest energy, it kind of goes back to the Black Moon Lilith, which is, you know, the 7th house, which can make one kind of use like emotional intelligence as a way in which they can kind of move away from like they can kind of like emotionally manipulate. There can be a tendency to do that, like at your lowest vibe. That's like Black Moon Lilith. And yeah, so with the Venus in Scorpio, there's extreme importance to have a person who values trust, intimacy, like the deepest form of that, of those two words, right? Because what you might find with like a incompatible person is this power struggle in the relationship where one, you know, like low vibe Scorpio Venus tries to control the other person until they learn that the only way to go is to let go, right? Which completely ties back. And with a Virgo moon, it kind of cements the, like what I was saying earlier again about like the need for this really solid kind of like embodied person who's very loyal, who you can really count on, because it can kind of make one like second, like kind of like a little paranoid, kind of like doubting, you know, some of the Mercury 12th house energy too. Like communications can be difficult, right? I told you, like at the very high level, it's impeccable, but at like the low level, like basic conversations, like kind of like feeling like in love, especially, there can be issues. But really with Venus and Scorpio, it's like they love so deeply that they just need someone who can match that. And it's a very, at its best, Venus and Scorpio is like all about like soul bonding, like at the highest level types of relationships, right? It doesn't want none of that like BS, like you know, like it's very, you know, it's very, very close. It wants things to be very intimate. No, even though like Scorpio is a secretive sign, like it wants to be, it wants to like, you know, be like it's the whole energy of like twin flames and like being at one with your partner. And let's see if it has this. Okay. So also, you know, I want to just backtrack a little bit with the Mercury because I saw that trines your north node and your south node, or sextiles your south node. That's basically telling me that communication and this power you have that maybe is undiscovered because it's hidden in the 12th house, and maybe it's just maybe you really discovered it after your Saturn return. That's linked to your past life. So you definitely have some like mystical past life experiences and knowledge. So like I tell people, like for myself, when I learned astrology, it felt like I was relearning it. So you definitely have your own version of that. And it's just about trying a lot of different things. But yeah, back to what I was saying. You know, with the Scorpio energy in your chart, you know, you might really like someone who is also like very humanitarian, who's also very like engaged in kind of like a similar type of like cause that you're engaged in, like really cares about the same types of things, values the same types of causes, and also like someone who's very, very philosophical, you know, someone who like with the moon in the 9th house, you know, that's what you're gonna want. And then also Juno, which is like kind of like what you look for in your ideal mate, is conjunct Neptune and your sun in Capricorn in the 1st house. You're definitely going to want someone who's ambitious in their own life, right? So like there's like a level of like intimacy and closeness, like a solid foundation, very solid foundation. But then so you don't have to like worry about any other bullshit. But then you guys are also able to like, just like you are a first house Capricorn sun, you're really like going towards whatever you're going towards in a direct manner, even though you lack, some of that fire. You're still going towards that. You do have one fire. You have you do have fire. You have your Mercury there. But yeah, definitely like ideal mate, spiritual. Probably it doesn't have to mean that they're like, like following astrology pages and doing all that. Just someone who's open-minded, and willing to explore that. Because like with the Venus and Scorpio, it opens up like sexuality, like higher forms, like kind of like tantra, stuff like that, like that spiritual kind of like sex becomes very, very important to have like a very spiritual connection within that. It makes a very spiritual experience. So yeah. And descendant in Cancer, you might really be interested in someone who has kind of that emotional maturity, and I don't know, I don't want to say someone older, but someone who definitely like has been around the block, because with your chart, like there's definitely that energy as well, being like Capricorn and stuff. Like Capricorns, they tend to like have to really grow up quickly, and face adversity when they're young, and then they're way more mature. Like when they're like in their 20s, they're like a lot of times like more mature than people of their own age, so they can tend to like want to be like around older types of people who understand them better. Now I'm looking for something. 1 second. So writing definitely could be something that could be very, very important for you, and very, very like something that you benefit from a lot. Writing, in a scorpionic way about the depths within you can be very, very healing. And let's see here. Okay. So yeah, I think you'll be very lucky in like who you meet in the relationships you have. There'll be lots of like luck with the Venus trine Jupiter. And yeah, it's just like about kind of moving away from that South Node tendency of investing too much of yourself in the relationship, and making sure that even if you're in very, very deep relationships, you're able to like still be individual and still keep yourself, right? And not lose yourself to like the chart in a relationship that's created as a composite chart, right? Not lose yourself to the composite chart completely, because like when two people come together, a new chart is formed. And like a lot of times people, when they're so close, the whole thing about like losing yourself, one losing themselves to relationships. Well, that's because of the composite chart and the energy that's formed in that bond. And it can make people sometimes like move away from their birth chart, from like their true self, and kind of getting to where they need to get to. So with that said, let's see. Yeah, even more like with the Mars square Saturn and Uranus, that's just going to give you like, once again, more pushback, especially like early in life, in terms of like you trying to achieve your goals. Mars is frustrated in Pisces. Oh, my camera back on. It's frustrated in Pisces for sure, because like Mars likes to be kind of like this like firepower, Aries like energy, and in Pisces it's very, very peaceful. So yeah, like square Saturn, square Uranus, it can kind of create an energy where it's like you feel like you're pulled back, like especially early in life, you felt like even more like you take a step forward and then you get pushed back by something, right? And then the Saturn return hits and a lot of that energy gets pulled away. So your Saturn return was probably like for sure like life changing in that period of time. But yeah, the Jupiter in Pisces, that's like very, very deep, like spiritual psychic energy. I know I keep saying the word psychic, but it's true. Like it gives one this like puts one on this very like intuitive search for truth, right? And in Mars, when they're together, it makes one really want to spread that word and be a teacher, right? To people in whatever way it is or it presents itself. Yeah. So beyond that, let's see. Yeah, you can definitely get like very, very intense, like intuitive flashes when you're spending time alone. And that's once again like the importance of like of having that balance between alone time and time and time spent pursuing your goals. And maybe your goals, you know, revolve around things you do in isolation. Who knows? But yeah, a little bit more about Neptune in your chart. It goes back to the whole boundaries thing, where there can sometimes be a lack of boundaries between yourself and others, which can sometimes lead to some vagueness in how you express yourself. But like the whole idea of it is to like link to your sun is to create, like to take your imagination and like the higher ideals in your imagination and to project that into your life, into your everyday life, into your purpose, right? So like what you dream, like what your highest ideals and dreams, like and spiritual aspirations should be like applied to your life in some type of way, right? But it can be difficult sometimes to really clarify who you are, right? Like you can like kind of lose sight of that. That's what happens with Pisces, right? Is that they can be very, very impressionable. So that's why it's important to keep the right company and be in the right environment. So yeah, very, very important. Let's see here. Yeah, so another thing I see is like just like you could definitely be like there can be like sixth house Chiron could have to do with like feelings of physical inadequacy, and you know the healing, the self-healing can be something that's like a daily thing, right? Where you're actually teaching other people, where you're an actual healer, where that's like you're like a huge part of your day to day. Because you know, like I said with the Gemini, it's like you're taught somehow to not trust your own thought processes. Maybe like fear, like with like a fear of really communicating like your real truth to others. Once you get past that, you're able to kind of teach other people how to do that as well, which is very key. So I think it's an AC on. So yeah, Pluto 11th house. I mean, really, really meant to kind of like just like I'll get my Pluto books right here. I always go to my Pluto book. It's kind of like a ceremonial thing. It's like a handwritten book. It's just like notes of like Pluto houses. So Pluto's like shadow work. It's like you dip into your Pluto and you're able to like it takes you to your darkest place parts of yourself, but it puts you in touch with like when you get through that healing, you get to like that. It's kind of like the North Node in that sense, or it's like you get to like the higher realms, highest potential energy for yourself. So here it speaks of a quest. This quest is a radical shift away from the karmic past from who they have been or from how others have seen them. And it's about liberating yourself from conditioning. There's a powerful need to detach from the external environment, which how well does this go with my South Node Libra, what I was saying before? So detach from the external environment and social groupings in order to see those interactions with a new perspective. Sometimes we need to step out of our familiar routines to understand the patterns that play out in our lives. So this can lead to resistance as it is such a high evolutionary intent. One fear is that going towards individualism will lead to isolation. This can be linked to traumatic past life memories of potentially being ostracized. And yeah. And these issues need to be understood now. There's a need for alliances with like-minded people through groups or friendships. I was saying that earlier, in this lifetime. The key with displacement is the urge to individuate, to become the person that one always wanted to be, free of past traumatic influences and conditioning factors. So to the extent that a group or like a group of friends or a group, whatever kind of group, supports this process, it is useful. But to the point at which it begins to block this process signals a problem. One has to act on the impulse to free themselves from this past as they may face alienation in the current life. So the healing polarity point, Leo, the need to creatively self-actualize. So this is like kind of like the way around it. The need to creatively self-actualize in order to express the potential to move beyond the disassociation produced by trauma into a more creative period of recovery. The individual finding their individuality within groups, finding a purely selfish impulse of creative evolution, which is so linked to the Aries North Node. Being a pioneer, being your own pioneer in this life, and not being, kind of like, I don't want to say pushed around, but just like being really your own person. You're a deeply spiritual person, so it's it comes down to all these factors. And so that's pretty much it. Looking for one thing really quickly. One sec. So Marquez, let's see. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. And then 128. Okay, so I'm not seeing any super important fixed stars. So I'll leave it at that. Let me know, get back to me about the follow-up. I highly suggest it because that's a session where we're really able to speak live and compare everything I said here with your lived experience, which, that's, in my mind, we learned so much from that session, right? And if you remind me, like usually I charge more, but I'd be willing to have that for $90. So just let me know. And yeah, we would just schedule a time to talk and to just go over everything. Most people take notes. They watch this a number of times. Usually the first time they just kind of watch it, and then, I mean, there's just so much information that they want to like really like write down, and then like write down talking points for the follow-up. So yeah, and then besides that, there's also the current astrology reading. A lot of people do like kind of this one, then that one. I don't actually allow people to do the current astrology until I've done their birth chart first. The current astrology is completely different than that. It's based on predictive astrology and kind of like what's happening for you now. This is like the book of your life, the hand you were dealt, but the current astrology is the current chapter and some of the energies you might be facing at this current time. And that one's a live reading. So I started doing those live in the past few months, and they've been way, way, way better than recorded for that type of astrology. And sometimes it takes like on like some aspects of counseling in that session. We're really trying to like work through the energy and try to understand things deep, like on a deeper level. So let me know about both of those. And yeah, one last thing, I guess I would say, I'm if you were to do both, I would even give you like a bigger discount for the current astrology as well. And most people, they get the birth chart done once, that's it. But then like once a year they come back for the current astrology. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope this is got some good answers out of this, and thanks to the patience. And I hope to talk to you soon. All right.